In a fiery and unforgettable moment that left political pundits stunned and audiences cheering, Senator JD Vance found himself toe-to-toe with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and let's just say, he wasn't ready. What started as a routine policy debate turned into a verbal showdown when Vance, known for his sharp conservative rhetoric and often controversial stances, tried to call out Crockett during a televised roundtable discussion. Expecting to rattle her or catch her off guard, he instead triggered a bold and calculated response that left him visibly shaken and the audience erupting in applause. Jasmine Crockett, a former public defender and fierce advocate for civil rights, didn't flinch. With her signature calm intensity, she countered Vance's remarks point by point, fact-checking his statements, exposing the flaws in his logic, and highlighting the deeper issues behind his narrative. But what made the moment go viral wasn't just her intellect, it was her delivery. She didn't just correct Vance. She dismantled his argument with style, humor, and confidence. "I came here with facts, not fiction," she said. "So if you're looking for a soundbite, try telling the truth first." The clip exploded online. Social media lit up with praise for Crockett's composure and wit, calling it one of the most powerful political clapbacks of the year. Political analysts replayed the moment on loop, highlighting how Vance, a former author turned senator, was simply outmatched when it came to real-time debate and public accountability. Crockett's response didn't just embarrass Vance, it reignited conversations about why more diverse, bold voices like hers are needed in positions of power. For Jasmine Crockett, it wasn't just about the argument. It was about setting the record straight and refusing to be intimidated by political theatrics. She later posted, "If standing up for truth makes them uncomfortable, then I'm doing my job." That statement echoed across communities who've long felt unheard in political spaces, and her supporters hailed the moment as proof that Crockett is a rising star in American politics. As for JD Vance, the exchange served as a reminder that challenging someone like Jasmine Crockett requires more than confidence. It requires substance. And on that day, he came with too little, too late. In what has now become one of the most talked-about political showdowns of the year, Senator JD Vance made the mistake of underestimating Representative Jasmine Crockett during a nationally televised panel. Positioned as just another spirited policy discussion, the exchange quickly turned into a defining moment, one that would expose not just the ideological rift between left and right, but also the stark difference in preparedness, perspective, and raw authenticity. JD Vance, best known for his memoir Hillbilly Elegy and his rise in Trump-era conservatism, aimed to challenge Crockett on a number of controversial topics, including education policy, race, and the role of government in shaping the future of America. But what he got in return was far more than he bargained for. Jasmine Crockett, a Texas congresswoman and former civil rights attorney, entered the discussion well aware of Vance's debating style and rhetorical tactics. Known for her sharp intellect, unapologetic presence, and deep understanding of the law, she came ready, not just to defend her values, but to expose the weak underpinnings of Vance's talking points. As soon as he attempted to corner her on so-called leftist overreach, Crockett pivoted from defense to offense. In a calm but powerful tone, she dismantled his argument line by line, pointing out the hypocrisy in his claims, the cherry-picking of facts, and his ongoing use of divisive cultural narratives to distract from policy failure. The audience, both in studio and online, took notice almost instantly. What made Crockett's clapback so effective wasn't just her command of facts or her legal precision. It was the way she did it, with elegance, wit, and a fearless attitude. At one point, she interrupted Vance after he cited flawed statistics to argue against affirmative action. "Senator," she said, "what you're doing right now isn't debate, it's deflection. You don't get to erase systemic inequality just because it makes your donors uncomfortable." The room went quiet. Then applause. That single line was shared thousands of times across social media platforms, making headlines the next morning. But Crockett didn't stop there. She used the moment to shift the conversation toward the broader consequences of political gaslighting. She spoke passionately about how these debates aren't just sound bites for Twitter. They reflect real struggles of working Americans. While some folks sit in air-conditioned rooms debating theory, she said, our communities are living through the policies we pass. So when you mislead people for political gain, you're not just being dishonest, you're being dangerous. The power in her words was undeniable. It was one of those moments when the room and the nation paused. JD Vance, clearly not expecting such a direct, poised rebuttal, struggled to regain control of the conversation. His attempt to pivot to border security and law and order was met with another strong response. Crockett, who has first-hand experience as a public defender, gave a passionate account of how criminal justice policies affect real people. She explained the long-term consequences of profiling, broken bail systems, and privatized prisons, all while tying it back to Vance's voting record and the hypocrisies embedded in it. You want to talk about safety? She asked. Then start by making sure every child has access to clean water, decent schools, and a future not defined by their zip code. Over the course of the panel, it became increasingly clear. JD Vance was not just losing the argument, he was being exposed. His talking points, though loud, lacked nuance. His examples, though rehearsed, failed to resonate. And each time he leaned into performative outrage, Jasmine Crockett countered with thoughtful clarity. She wasn't there to play political theater. She was there to lead. By the end of the broadcast, viewers on both sides of the aisle had to admit Crockett had owned the stage. Not through aggression, but through truth. Not through shouting, but through precision. Her performance that day became more than just a viral moment. It became a symbol of the new wave of political leadership, one where authenticity, legal expertise, and lived experience matter more than manufactured narratives. In follow-up interviews, Crockett emphasized that her goal wasn't to embarrass Vance, but to hold public discourse to a higher standard. We can't afford to keep pretending like these debates don't affect people's lives, she said. We're not playing a game. This is about the future of our country, and if you come at me with spin, you better be ready for substance. That ethos, direct, honest, and rooted in service, continues to define her growing influence in Congress. The exchange between JD Vance and Jasmine Crockett will likely be studied for years to come, not just for its viral value, but for what it revealed about the evolving landscape of American politics. The old formula of rhetoric over reason is fading fast. And rising leaders like Crockett are proving that courage, truth, and preparation still win in the end. JD Vance may have entered that discussion ready to challenge her, but Jasmine Crockett left it with a national platform even stronger than before, and a message loud enough for every corner of America to hear. But the viral moment wasn't just about Crockett out-debating JD Vance. It was about a deeper shift in who gets to control the political conversation in America. For decades, political panels have been dominated by polished talking points, carefully rehearsed answers, and safe, controlled messaging. What Jasmine Crockett brought to the table was the opposite. Raw truth, lived experience, and the kind of moral clarity that only comes from walking the walk. Her words resonated because they weren't rehearsed. They were real. And they represented a growing frustration among Americans, especially young people and marginalized communities who are tired of being talked about but rarely talked to. As the video of the encounter continued to spread, mainstream media began covering it from all angles. CNN, MSNBC, and even independent outlets like the Young Turks and Breaking Points ran segments highlighting the showdown. But beyond media coverage, what truly gave the moment power was the way Crockett's supporters mobilized online. Hashtags like #CROCKETTCLAPBACK and #UNBOTHEREDANDUNAPOLOGETIC began trending. TikTok creators made explainers breaking down the policy facts she laid out. Instagram was flooded with posts quoting her most impactful lines. In short, her voice didn't just echo, it multiplied. This wasn't Crockett's first viral moment, but it was among her most impactful. And it signaled to establishment politicians that a new kind of leadership is rising, one that doesn't play by the old rules. Crockett's unapologetic stance made clear that she wasn't there to impress pundits or play to the gallery. She was there to speak for those left out of the conversation, people who feel the real-world consequences of disinformation, bad faith arguments, and policies made in echo chambers. Meanwhile, JD Vance was left trying to explain his performance. While he avoided addressing Crockett directly in the days following the debate, conservative media rushed to defend him, claiming he was ganged up on or set up. But even those narratives couldn't erase what had unfolded live on air. A seasoned public servant caught off guard by someone far more prepared, far more articulate, and far more connected to the real world than he expected. Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't interrupt. She didn't attack his character. She simply let the truth stand on its own, and it was devastatingly effective. In the weeks that followed, Crockett took advantage of the momentum. She hosted a live-stream town hall to discuss the topics she debated with Vance: education equity, criminal justice reform, healthcare access, and misinformation. Thousands tuned in live, and even more watched the replay. Donations to her re-election campaign surged. More importantly, so did interest in her legislative work. People weren't just cheering her personality, they were engaging with her policy. Political strategists began to take note. They realized that Crockett's appeal wasn't just that she was a good speaker, it was that she had receipts. When she talks about criminal justice reform, it's because she's defended clients in courtrooms. When she talks about systemic racism, it's because she's lived it. And when she challenges figures like JD Vance, she does so not just with words, but with a track record of service, community organizing, and public accountability. It also sparked broader discussions within progressive circles about how to prepare for future debates, not just with data, but with real conviction. Crockett became a symbol of how to fight smart and with soul. Her example showed that you don't have to shout to make an impact, you just need to know what you're talking about and speak like the truth matters. Because in a political landscape dominated by spin and spectacle, authenticity is revolutionary. Toward the end of the month, Jasmine Crockett was invited to speak at several major events, including civil rights conferences, university panels, and national Democratic summits. At each appearance, she spoke less about JD Vance and more about the movement she's trying to build, one that's grounded in facts, accountability, and fearless advocacy. "This isn't about owning someone in a debate," she said in one keynote speech. "It's about making sure the people who watch us every day know that someone is fighting for them, and not just with words, but with action."